Hi guys, in this video I will show you how to do a to-do application using React. This is gonna be our end goal, and this is just a simple to-do application where you can put your to-dos. For example, say eat, sleep, eat again. Then you can click over here to mark it as complete, like I already eat, so that to-do going away, sleep, and I eat again. Okay, so I'm gonna put this to the side for right now. Right here on my desk, I'm gonna do right click, just open terminal. For this, of course, you need to have Node.js install. Oops. Node.js install. I use the LTS, and that will come with npm. After that, you basically do npx create React app. My name is gonna be Todos. Let that run. It might take a little while the first time that you run it. Alright. Now I can do the following using VS Code or Codium. VS Codium, which is like a fork of VS Code. So I'm gonna open with Codium Todos. Again, in case most likely it's gonna be VS Code. I'm gonna put it right here. Now for this application, I'm using Bootstrap, and we're gonna do this application right now. Before, let me zoom in. Okay, a little bit. Let me open my terminal right here, and I'll do yarn in my case. But if you have by default, you're gonna have npm installed, so you're gonna do npm run star. But in my case, I'm using yarn, which is another alternative to npm. And this is gonna run a development server. I'm gonna close that out. So this is gonna be my standard React application. Okay. Now this is my index.html, which think of it as your entry point to the application. But for this application, I'm gonna use Bootstrap. So we need to set that up first. So to get started, we need to get the starting template. So we need to add this stuff over here. So we already got that. This is over here. We need to add this one, which we already have it, but not exactly the same. So I'm just gonna copy over it. Basically, we need to add this part on the other one. The Bootstrap CSS. I'm gonna put that right on top of my title. So my title. Give it a space. And for last, script tags. This one I put it just like here, right above a body tag. I'm gonna say that. Okay, so now we can use Bootstrap. Another thing that we need to use for an icon, I'm gonna use Fontawesome. Now for this one, you do need to already log in. Just do an account and just follow the instruction. That's gonna give you a script tag, which just give me 1 second. I will show you right now. So it's gonna look, I'm gonna put it right here, right below my, it's gonna be like that, but this is gonna, of course, gonna be different because this is just one per account. So I'm gonna put that how it's supposed to be. Move it over just a second. Okay, so now we have Bootstrap set up and we have Fontawesome connected. That way we can use Fontawesome icons. So now let's go back to, so this is the beginning of the application, APIs. You have all of these, we don't need it. So I will delete the logo and we don't need that. I'll delete the logo. APIs, of course, gonna give an error. The app CSS, we don't need that neither. Go to trash. So now return and just want an empty div. We can delete this part. Now if I put here like hello, what you get a hello about? There you go. Now we're gonna create new components. If you know, React is all component based, so I will put those components inside component. In the component folder, inside component folder, I'm gonna put Todos as a GS file. Again, we create a new folder called components inside source, and then we create a Todos GS. Okay. Now we're gonna create a new React application, a React component. We first start with importing React from React. Then we do const to do that, return. I'm not return an empty div, so let's put Todos. Now we do at the bottom, export default. Okay, we use the same name that we use over here. And then APIs, I'm going to import that from // navigate to my component, which is inside the folder components / Todos. You don't need to put the ES extension. Now here we can use our Todos like that, just like that. And now we get a Todos. If you notice, we don't have here, we don't say Todos anywhere. This to do word come from here, right here. And let me have open my console, my DevTool. So if you had it's better if you had the React extension, React DevTool extensions. I got my console down here at the bottom. Now we will create another component. This one we call it to do input. Inside is gonna be the input box with the button add. And I will create another one called to do list. This is gonna be the list at the bottom of components. So we first start with the to do input. Again, we start by doing import React from React const. Oops. There's an empty div for now. I'll do something copy and paste, and this is gonna be to do this. That. Now back into our to-dos, we're gonna use useState, which is the hook. I will import it like that. And this is gonna put our information. This is gonna this is gonna allow us to create a variable to save half our to-dos, and we use it that way. This way, it's gonna return to it's gonna return the variable which is gonna name Todos, and a function called setTodos that's gonna be equal to useState. Here we're gonna give it the initial value. It's just gonna be an empty array for now. Now if we go back to our application, if you go to the component section on your React DevTools, you're gonna see app. App is referring to this file right here, and inside app we call it Todos, which is this file right here. So we had that connection going on. Now here our hook stays in empty array. Now just for demo, let's add a manually let's add a to do. Let's call it to do 1, to do 2. Let's see what happened when we refresh. See, so this is when we storing our to-dos. Of course, we want to delete this. Now, if we go back to our input, to-do input, here we're gonna use a Bootstrap component. So just go to your Bootstrap documentation, components. We're gonna use input group, and we're gonna use this one. This is the second one down here. So we are gonna copy it. Let's bring that up to our component. I'm gonna leave those div right there. Paste it. You might get some error. That's fine. To fix this error, the first thing that I would do, I need to self-close this input tag. I do this going over here. Let's close it out. And we also need to in React you cannot use class. We have to use class name like that. And the last thing, we need to wrap this on parentheses. Still have a problem. Input, close it out. No, we're fine. So I'm gonna do Control S to save it, and I have this plugin called Prettier, which kind of do the formatting for me. So if you install it by just going here, searching for Prettier, just install it, and every time you save your file, your code is gonna reformat it, so you're gonna get exactly the same match. It's gonna look exactly the same. It's gonna be very readable. Okay, so now we should be able to see. No, let's see what's happening. Okay, now let's bring to do inside to do inputs to do, so we can see something on the screen. So again, we do it the same way that we did in APS, import to do input from to do input. Now here we don't need this anymore. That was just for the time being. To do input, self-closing, and there you go. Now let's modify this a little bit so it fits more our needs. Well, we don't need that. Can delete that portion. You don't need this portion either. We can replace this with let's say enter new to do. Okay, we got that. Let's change that button. I'm gonna change it to PNT primary. I'm gonna make it blue like that. And let's see what else we can do. Now this is looking much better. However, we want to do some more. Let's change some more stuff. First of all, let's make this over here smaller, maybe here, occupying this space, and let's bring a little down so it's not touching our very beginning on our page. In order to do that, we're gonna use the grid system of of Bootstrap. So we're gonna do something like that, similar like this over here. That allows to center everything to the center. So let's do that. We're gonna do that in our app.js. So the way how it works, right here we're gonna create a new div, and we're gonna give it a class name called container. Now inside there, Bootstrap is gonna apply some alignment that we're gonna tell it to do it using a class name again. We need to create another div. I'm gonna give another class name. In this case, it's gonna be row. And let's create another div. Class name equals col. So it stands for column. I'm gonna put our Todos right here. Save it. So that's looking much better. However, let's make this smaller. And we do it using a call. We'll modify this, let's say 6. Alright, that's good. However, we wanted this to be in the center. So we can center our row, justify content center. Let's see, there you go. So now it's gonna make it in the middle. That looks a little nicer. And now let's bring that a little down. Let's give it another class name called empty, which stands for margin top. And let's do 5. Let's see how it looks. Not too much. I'm gonna do 3. Okay, that's much better. Again, it's gonna stay in the middle. There you go. That's much better, much prettier. Okay. Now we still need to make more changes to this, so let's go to our to-do input. We're gonna wrap everything in the form. So let's add the form tag. We don't need the action for right now. And let's put everything that we have right now right inside the form. So we had a div, form, I'm inside there. We're gonna pass all of this, paste all of this. And the form, we're gonna do this way. Our button first, let's change it to type button. We're gonna change this to type submit. So that's gonna be the submit button for our form. And let's change this to add. Make more sense. Beautiful. Now let's add another property to our form. It's gonna be on submit. So when we submit that button, when we submit our form, basically when we press the add button, which are the type of submit, whatever value we give it to on submit is gonna happen. To test it out, let's do an alert hello. Okay. Oops. There you go. So we know that is wire app. However, that's not exactly what we need, what we want. Now here we're gonna use again use state. So let's bring that up from React. Use state. Now we're gonna create some, let's call it input value. Let's call it to do input. So set to do input. Use state. And the default value is gonna be an empty string. And we get an error, see what will happen. Okay, because we haven't given any value. So let's create another function. Let's call it cons form submit handler, and this is gonna receive something from called event. And now we're gonna do the following. When we submit, let's pass a reference to that function. Okay, so now let's console log that event, see what it is. So when we press, we should get something. Wait. Now, if you notice, every time we press here, the page refresh. We don't want that. So the way to prevent that happens because that's the default behavior of HTML or forms. When you press the submit, the whole page is gonna refresh, but we don't need that. We don't want that. We want to do event prevent prevent default. That's gonna prevent the default behavior. So we press add, and the page does not refresh. And now here we're getting a console log event. So this is what the event is. Just a big object that it contains the value that we put in here. So we get that value is inside event. Event target value undefined, that's fine. It's gonna be undefined again. We need to wire add to do to this input value. So the way we do that, I'm gonna go down here. Let me give a little space to this, easy to understand. We're gonna give a value equal input value. No, I'm sorry, let's do the following. On change. I gotta do on change. We're gonna wire up basically to do input to our input field. So the way that we do that is using the on chain basically every time. Oops, let me take that off. Every time a change happens inside the input box, this is gonna be triggered. And for that, I'm gonna use another. I'm gonna create another function. I'm gonna call to do input change on change handler. Again, that's gonna receive another event. Now here, let's console log. Again, our event target value. Let's see what happened. Okay, now when it happened, let's give it a reference to that function that we create. Now you notice, there you go. As we type in, we get in that console log from over here. Now if you notice in our to do input, in our hooks we need to set the value over here to whatever we getting right now in the console log, or we're typing over here. We need to wire up that to do input. So the way that we do that, again, every time we type in, this function is being triggered. Now we want to set the value of to do input. We use the to do set to do input. So instead of doing console log, we're going to do set to do input, and let's pass it the event target value. And now let's try it out, see if it works or not. So let's look over here, ABC. Yeah, so we got it. That's good. Now another thing that we want to do every time we add it to do, let's say to do, add to do, we want this to be clear. So again, when we press the add button, this function is being triggered, the form submit handler. So we don't need this anymore. We're gonna use again set in to do input. We're gonna set it back to an empty string. So press enter. I'm sorry. We add up. Okay, sounds is not working. Let's see what happened. Okay, so if you notice here, let's put another to do. Let's look over here. No, there you go. Our state, this one. So when we press enter on the end of the project, that when we press that, that's gonna add it to do. You notice that the state go back to blank, which is good. That's the behavior that we want, but we actually want this to go completely blank. So we need to wire this again to the value of to do input. The way that we do that, let's put over here value, and we pass it the to do input. And now when we do this, there you go. So let's say it. I press enter. Our hook state is going to be it. Press enter, or click add, go back to blank. That's good. However, we need to send that to do. Let's say it. When we press that, we want to send that it to do from to do input to do's. So how do we do that? So first of all, let's go back to our to do's. We got here our to do's array, just the empty array. This function to set our to do's. So let's just create a helper function. Let's call it const add to do. Now this helper function is gonna receive the to do from to do input, and I'll name a new to do from input. On new to do. Now when that happens, we want to use this. Now this set to do's we're gonna use a little different compared to our set to do input array function. Why? Because we need to take into account the previous value that we have in use state in our to do's. I'm sorry. So it's gonna look it's gonna look a little different. So the way that we're gonna use it is gonna be set to do. Now this array, this function is gonna give you a value back. I'm gonna call it preview to do's, and then it's gonna gonna execute this function, and here we're gonna return something. We're gonna return a new array. This is the concept that we cannot just change the value of our state. We need to return a new value. So we can, again, when we're setting our even when we're doing set to do's to an empty string, we're not changing the value. We're actually giving it a new value to do input. So we gotta do the same. When we're adding a new to do, we are not changing the value to do's. Technically, we are giving it a new value, a completely brand new value. However, in this case, we need to give it a completely new value, but we need to take into account the previous state of this to do array, because right now our to do is empty. But let's say through our application we got it sleep. Now when we add a new to do, we are not adding a new to do, we are giving a new value, completely new value, but that new value happened to be a copy of our previous to do array plus the new to do. So that's why we need to use previous to do. Previous to do's make more sense. So now we're gonna return a new array. Now we're gonna use that. The new array is gonna have the previous to do's, and to get that we're gonna use the spread operator like that. So that's gonna take out all the values. In this case, it's gonna be it and sleep. You're gonna take it out and put it inside this array, and then we're gonna add the new to do. Okay, so right now again, if we go to our to do's, our state is eat and sleep, and let's say sleep more. Add it up. It's not working. Okay, now we got this done again, but we need to use this. So how we use this? We need to wire up this add to do to do input. So there is communication going on between to do input and to do. And the way that we do that, we pass a property or a prompt, and we do it like that. To do add to do equals add to do. So now to do input, we pass in that function add to do. Under the name, add to do the same. Technically, this can be anything you want. This over here, but I just want to name it the same. It's more easy. It's easier that way. So now when we come over here on to do input, now we are not receiving anything. We are not capturing anything that we are receiving. But let's do props. Now props is gonna be an object. Props is gonna be an object. So let's console log and see what happens. Console log props. So props are gonna say what is whatever we pass to do input. Again, in this case, it's just a function. So when we refresh a page, we get in the object right here, add to do. which is a function that receives a new parameter called new to do. So let's take out this console log. Now, when we press this button over here, we're gonna use that function to add the to-dos. We're gonna pass in a new to-do. However, when we press this button, the onSubmit gets triggered, which the onSubmit is calling the form submit handler. So we add over here. So we need the event again to prevent default, so it doesn't refresh. We're still gonna leave that, but inside, we're gonna say props. Remember, on the props we received that add to do, and we're gonna pass in a new value, which is gonna be to do input. And right after that, we set to do input back to empty array. So let's see if that's working. Again, see over here right now on our to-dos component, it had the state of eat and sleep array. Let's add a new to do, sleep more, press enter or add. There you go. Now we have sleep more. ABC. We got another component right there, another array. Now we can get crazy. There you go. Good. So that is working properly. Now again, here from to do input, we're sending a new to dos to Todos GS. Todos GS is keeping track of all the to dos. So to dos input is doing its function. Now we're gonna start working on to do list, which is actually gonna render the to dos right on the bottom of the input box. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to bring import to do list from to do list. Okay, I got an error again. I always made that mistake. From. Now we can use it right here in the bottom, right below to do input, to do list. Let's close it out. Okay. Now let's come over here. Now here we're gonna use another component. Well, before we start doing that, we're gonna receive another prop. So let's name it props. Props stand for property. So let's console log it. Let's first console log what is the props. Yeah, right now just an empty object. However, if we do the following, which we actually do, we're gonna send a property called Todos, and inside there we're gonna send our Todos. Now again, remember these Todos right here, this can be named whatever. So if we put ABC and we send that to Todos, now when we get this object, it's under the name ABC, but it contains the value of Todos. In this case, we got our array. Now I don't want to name these ABC for common sense, so I name it back to Todos. So we can return this console, take down this console log, and now the component that we're gonna use from Bootstrap is called list group right here. So this is what we want to display. Okay, so we just copy and paste, and then we fix it out as we need. Okay, back to our to-dos, paste that. Now, you see, we got that sample working. Again, you get an error, that's actually good. You mean to use class name, so we gotta change that. Now, on my keyboard, to change all of this fast, I just select one, double click on one. I hit Control D, again, and that will select all those the same word. Now I can just change it. I got class name. And now that error should go away. Now we got this default kind of example list. Now here we need to again in a dynamic kind of way display our eat and sleep to dos. So how do we do that? I'm gonna just console log. Comment this out. Again, my keyword I select the line control /, so it's gonna be ignored. Right below it, we're gonna do the following. If you remember, we are receiving props. Those props has the value of to-dos, which contain the value of our to-dos. Now we're gonna go through every element of that to do, or that props to do, and we're gonna render one of these guys. So let's do the following, and we do it like that. We put curly braces, which allow us to use JavaScript inside our GSX. GSX is this that looks like HTML. Technically, this is not HTML, but it's no, fair enough, very close. So let's go props, to do, and we're gonna use the map. Map is gonna return a new array. We need to use the value, and the index. And that's a map. Is gonna run a function for every component that to do array, and it's gonna give us the value for that component and the index. So let's just, okay, we got props to do. Okay, we had a problem. Okay, we name it Todos. They have to match the same name. Now we should not get that problem. Okay, now just a demo, let's console log our value and our index. See what happened. So we can see our value and our index. We got a new to do. Let's call it hit more. Now we got a new element. Okay, now we don't need to do console log. We need to render something like this. So I'm gonna cut it out. I'm gonna replace this. Now here, we need to. We don't need that. Okay, let me do the following. Oops. Let's do it like that. Okay, we got a problem. Not using expression for the compound. Okay, now if that's the case that we find this mistake, again remember this is GSS right here. Now parentheses, now this become JavaScript. Now this is not correct JavaScript. What we can do to use that, let me cut it out, return inside parentheses. Now we can use that. There you go. Now let's see. I press Control S and pretty kind of do auto formatting, so it makes it readable. Now we're getting that. Again, we got two elements, so we're getting two elements by render. But let's add another to do. So now we get three. Now we can use the value. So let's use the value. Again, we use the curly braces so we can inject the value of the JavaScript variable. Okay, well now that's good, that's perfect. Now let's go to hit more. There you go. However, we get in this error. So each child in the list should have a unique key. Okay, so let's give it a key. Now remember, it had to be unique. What is unique in an array? The indexes are unique. So we do key equal index. Perfect. So now it's working even more. Beautiful. Now we don't need, we can delete that for now. Okay. Beautiful. It's working just perfect. We are not getting any mistake. Let's flip. Okay, now what's the next thing that we need to do? Well, when we add a new to do, we want to get that little cross icon so we can delete it. So let's do that part. Now, if we keep scrolling down here in this component, in this list group, it's something like this. So if you notice, this is how they do it. They did it. So we got our URL right now. We are in to-do list. We got our URL class name list group. We got the part. Now the li that we render for each component for each to do. So we got the class name list group item. We got that. Now let's add this part. Let's add this to our class name. Now let's add this span over here. Again, it's not exactly what we need, but at least we're gonna see something on the screen. So right below a value, again, in this case, this is the value that they have. This is our value, so right below it, we're gonna add that span, and now we should get that thing. Again, we gotta replace that with class name. Good. Okay, now we don't want a badge. We actually want an icon. So now let's go back to Fontawesome. Sorry. Now let's look for the icon. The icon that we want, something that say close, like an X or something like that. You can pick whatever you like. I'm gonna pick this one, like this one, and then we scroll down and start using this icon. So now we just need to paste that in our code. Now, instead of 14, we're gonna paste it right inside. Control S. Still getting something. Now we got an icon. The icon is coming out, but now again this is supposed to be class name. But now we don't want a class name that say span. In fact, we can delete completely the class name. Let's see. There you go. Now, well, let's add another to do. Now we got a button. Well, actually, technically, it's not a button. But let's see, we want this to be clickable. So let's add the on click. Now here we're gonna pass it a function. For right now, let's do alert hello. Let's see what happened. Now it's clickable. However, we don't get this little hand icon that we get with the button like that. So let's fix that. We fix that basically by passing another property called type equals button. So that make this span tag to behave like a button. So let's try it again. And now we get a button. Now I'm using Firefox, and this is being rendered with this that looks like a actually button. However, if you are in Chrome, it's not gonna render like that, I believe. Yeah, still you're gonna get that little hand icon, but you're not gonna get the button, which can be a plus or minus. Okay. Now it's clicking. Right now we're saying hello. We want to do something else. Now we need to wire act to-dos with to-do list, similar to how we did to-dos with to-do input, in reference to passing that new to-do. Now basically what we need to pass, what we need to do from to-do list is delete the to-do. We can use, again, remember this is an array, so each array is going to have an individual index that we can use to target that specific to-do and remove it from the array. So we're going to do another to-dos. We're going to do another helper function, similar to this add to-do, but this one is going to be to delete the to-do. So basically we do const, let's name it delete to-do, and the parameter I'm going to name is to-do index, and now we equal to, for right now let's just console log delete to do index. Okay, so something for right now. So make sure to test it out that it's working. Now, same that we did over here, that we pass a reference to a function to do input, we're gonna do the same to do list. So let's do that. Again, I'm gonna use the same name, delete to do equals, I'm gonna pass the function. Now we can use that function now in our to-do list, and that's gonna be triggered. Instead of doing alert hello, now we can do props. Remember, it's inside our props object, and we can do dot delete to do, and now we're gonna pass that index, and the index we're gonna get it right here. Remember, all of this is inside this math function, all of that. So we have access to this value variable and this index variable that we're using over here for the key. Now we're gonna use it over here to delete our to do. And now let's go to A, B, C. Okay, let's say we want to delete that. We should get a 1 on our console log. We get a 1 because that's our index. Remember, arrays start with index 0, like that, right there. Perfect. Now we need to go back to our to-dos and actually delete that to-do. We can delete this. We don't need a console log anymore. Now we're gonna do. Now we're gonna use set to-dos again, similar to how we did it over here. Set to-dos. We wanna take into account a previous to-do. So that's gonna be a function. And now we're gonna return. Now in this case, we need to return a brand new array. So for that, we're gonna use here. We use the we're gonna use the filter, similar to this map. Map basically go through every element and return a brand new array. You return an array of these elements that are gonna be rendered to a screen. Filter is another similar but not the same. So let's do this filter. That's what I'm talking about. So basically here we got some information. Return the elements on the array that meet the condition specified in the call by function. So let's do that. Now here it gave us two values, two variables, the value and the index. Again, similar to map, this filter is going to run from every element in the previous to-dos array. But now the filter is going to filter it out. It's going to, whatever doesn't meet the condition that we give it, whatever meets the condition that we gave it, is going to be, it's not going to be included in the new array that filter provides back. So the condition that we're going to check is return. We gotta use the return keyword. Return if this index over here is not the same our index to do index. And I prefer to rename this a little better. So I rename this to delete, just to make it more specific. To do index to delete. Okay, so it's gonna shake. Okay, let's run an example. So when I press this again, this index is gonna be 1. So now when I press this button, this function is gonna be triggered. Now our filter is gonna compare every value on our current to-dos, and if the index does not match, the index that we want to delete, is going to be included in a new array. Hence, when we get to that index 1 in this case, it's not going to be included in the new to do array. So let's actually try it out, see what happens. Need to refresh it. A, B, C. Now we want to delete B. There you go. So now we delete that. Let's delete A. There you go. And let's delete C. Perfect. Now here we don't need to use value, we only need to use the index, but however we need to put something here in this space. I like to just put 2 dashes. So VS Code is telling me, hey, you did not use this variable. If I do the following, now you kind of understand that I kind of had to put it there, but I don't really need to use it. Okay. Again, let's try it out again. Perfect, it's working perfectly. Perfect. So this is working beautiful. Now I like to, this is kind of long and I don't like that, so I'm gonna change that a little bit. So basically gonna be equal to a curly brace, and that's gonna be basically just a string. This is kind of the same, but I want to cut it in half, so I'm gonna put like that, plus sign, I'm gonna leave a space, and a space over here, so that's look more nice. See this line? This marked me the airy characters. I don't want to pass that. That's just me. It's working just the same. Now we had a problem that we need to fix. Right now, if we don't have nothing to do, when we press the add button, see we adding that blank to do, so we need to take that into account. So if we go back to our input to do, or we can do it right here in the to do's. Like when we add it to do, we're gonna check. Okay, let's do refresh. Let's console log new to do. New to do. Okay, so now A, new to do is A. B, new to do is B. Now we press nothing, it's empty string. I mean it's nothing, just an empty string. So we need to check for that. So we can achieve that with a simple if statement, like if new to do we put that set to do statement right inside there. So if to do is gonna it's gonna be truly if it's not empty, there is something inside there. So let's try it out. Now we are not getting that new empty to do. Perfect. So I think that will cover everything. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for watching the video. Please find the code. I'm gonna put the code. The source code is gonna be down the bottom of the description of this video on the GitHub link. Thank you very much.